The media wants you to believe America is about to invade Greenland. They're running headlines about military campaigns and NATO collapse, but there's only a problem. None of it's true. What's actually happening is far more dangerous to the establishment than any invasion. The President of the United States is telling the truth about power, and the people who've been lying about it for decades are terrified. Now, here's what they're hiding. You see, Greenland is not a symbolic rock in the middle of nowhere. It's the keystone of North Atlantic defense. Missile early warning systems, Arctic sea lanes, and the front line of great power competition with Russia and China. The United States already carries the overwhelming burden of defending Greenland through NATO. 2/3 of the alliance's military capability comes from America. That's not opinion, that's called math. And for decades, European allies have freeloaded on American taxpayers while underinvesting in their own defense. Now Trump is forcing the conversation into the open. He said, if we don't secure Greenland, Russia or China will take it. It's not a threat. That's a warning based on geography and hard power. Denmark's prime minister says they are at a fateful moment, and she's right, but the fate being decided isn't Greenland's. It's whether America continues subsidizing an alliance that doesn't carry its weight. Now we have some breaking news, a strategic metals alert the public rarely hears, a metal that most Americans overlook, but governments and defense contractors monitor daily. I'm talking about titanium. One company moving into position is SAGA Metals, trading as SAGMF in the United States and SAGA in Canada. Now, titanium is lightweight, exceptionally strong, and corrosion resistant, making it vital for modern defense systems. Now, nearly 20% of total titanium consumption goes into defense, and F-35 fighter jets can be up to 40% titanium by weight. North America's titanium supply is tightening fast, and while Greenland emerges as a strategic titanium hub under President Trump, the push for domestic resource independence sets the stage for companies like SAGA to benefit. Now, SAGA Metals is drilling at early stage valuations as titanium rises to the top of national security priorities. You can find out more about SAGA Metals by hitting the link down below. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Stephen Miller was asked a loaded question designed to manufacture fear. He refused to play along. Instead of taking the bait, he told the truth about who actually defends Greenland. The media called it a threat, but commentators are now pointing out the obvious. The anti-Trump hysteria is entirely manufactured. Trump's approach has always been about leverage and clarity. Strong language, media panic, then quiet recalibration. No invasion required, just accountability. And that's exactly what the establishment cannot tolerate. Let's go and check in with Stephen Miller's hit on CNN.
Important topic. The premier of Greenland and the premier of Denmark and other Danish officials are responding to a Twitter post from your wife, Katie Miller, herself a former Trump White House official, showing Greenland covered with an American flag, saying soon. After that was posted, President Trump repeated the claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons. The Danish prime minister responded to this in an interview earlier today, as reported by Bloomberg, quote, I believe one should take the American president seriously when he says that he wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War. Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
Well, let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now, so I know you're treating this as breaking news. The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United States,
but your wife posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation.
No, but
that's why it's newly relevant.
No, I'm not, and I'll talk with you about it for an hour. I think it's a really important conversation. I just wanted to reset, Jake, by making clear that it has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out the United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland. So
one last question, Stephen.
Doesn't make any sense.
One last question. Important topic. The premier of Greenland and the premier of Denmark and other.
Well, he didn't take it off the table. He did kind of call it absurd that we would invade Greenland when they have a population of 30,000 people. The bigger question that's in play here is the reality that he pointed out with respect to that we are majority NATO backing. Our American taxpayers fund the majority of NATO. What claim does Denmark have? It's really a strategic importance to us. So basically, we should just claim it because we're already protecting it to begin with, right? Through NATO. What would happen if China or Russia did aggressively take over Greenland? It would trigger NATO's defense clause, and then the United States would have to go in there and fix it. And then, the Canadians and the French would send 20 soldiers and maybe a couple canoes or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, we would be the majority force that would be protecting that nation. So in that logic, it makes perfect sense. If we're already majority, then just go ahead and just redraw the lines, put it in our corner, and we'll take care of the rest. You guys can keep going with your, whatever it is you do at NATO. Let's hear the vice president's remarks with respect to, he's saying Denmark is not doing enough to keep Greenland safe. That's because we're the majority stakeholder in NATO.
This is about. That's what this is about. There is no amount of bullying, no amount of obfuscating, no amount of confusing the issue. Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you have underinvested in the security architecture of this incredible, beautiful landmass filled with incredible people. That has to change. And because it hasn't changed, this is why President Trump's policy in Greenland is what it is. That's what this is about. There is no amount of bullying, no amount of obfuscating, no amount of confusing the issue. Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested.
You've not supported them. Here is Ted Lieu. Not a joke, calls for disobedience inside the U.S. military. Ted Lieu warns the troops, if Trump orders an attack, don't obey. Didn't we have a problem with this already, a seditious 6? Do we have a seditious 7 now?
Including if any military member, including the generals on down to enlisted members, if any of them participate in the use of military force against Greenland without congressional authorization, they are following illegal orders. That's simply a fact.
Last one.
If any military member, including the generals on down to enlisted members, if any of them participate in the use of military force against Greenland without congressional authorization, they are following illegal orders. That's simply a fact.
Last one.
Not going to end well for him either, but he doesn't have a rank to be demoted, though. Okay, Denmark is frantic after President Trump orders his military chiefs to drop an invasion plan of Greenland ahead of Marco Rubio's meeting with them this week. Stephen Miller reported leading the plan. China and Russia will not have control of the region. This is according to the Daily Mail. President Trump orders his chiefs to drop an invasion plan. Really? What's that mean?
Of this doctor and the Daily Mail reporting on it today, saying sources say that the policy hawks around the U.S. president, led by political advisor Stephen Miller, have been so emboldened by the success of the operation to capture Venezuelan's leader, Nicolas Maduro, that they want to move quickly to seize the island before Russia or China makes a move.
Well, this idea of Greenland. We remember in the early days of this administration, I think J.D. Vance and his wife took a trip out to Greenland. There was Charlie Kirk flew out to Greenland as well. So there's been talk about this. To some liberals and who don't yet understand President Trump because they have Trump derangement syndrome, this sounds crazy and authoritarian, but it's actually a very rational move if your goal is to position the United States as the global leader in this world. I say that because right now, whether you want to admit it or know it or not, we are in the middle of an AI war that's heating up between the United States and China. And what we need to win that war is we need to have 2 to 3 times more the capacity of electricity, and we need more rare earth minerals. And so President Trump is doing something, in my opinion, that presidents rarely ever do.
Doctor and the Daily Mail reporting on it today, saying sources say that the policy hawks around the U.S. president, led by political advisor Stephen Miller, have been so emboldened by the success of the operation to capture Venezuelan's leader, Nicolas Maduro, that they want to move quickly to seize the island before Russia or China makes a move.
Well, this idea.
Sources say it's going to happen. The Daily Mail. Alarmist. What would happen if the U.S. invaded Greenland? Well, let's investigate. A U.S. invasion of Greenland could plausibly escalate into a direct great power confrontation because China, Russia, and Europe would all see the core interests on the line. Europe would treat it as an attack on European territory through Denmark, triggering a NATO-level rupture and a risk of military standoffs between allied forces. Russia could respond aggressively to protect its Arctic bastion and freedom of movement in the high north, using the crisis as cover for rapid deployments. China, well, let's just see. Let's just watch this here.
Denmark, what would happen if the USA invaded Greenland right now? U.S. warships appear off the coast of Greenland. Special forces land in the dead of night, seizing airstrips and key ports. The invasion has begun. The U.S. is after Greenland's untapped resources, rare earth metals critical for military, tech, and energy dominance. With China and Russia expanding influence in the Arctic, the U.S. makes its move before they can. Denmark, which owns Greenland, is outraged and scrambles to respond. It calls on NATO for help, but the alliance is divided. Does it really want war with the U.S.? Meanwhile, Russia sees an opportunity. Moscow denounces the invasion and deploys troops to the Arctic, claiming it's protecting Arctic sovereignty. China isn't silent either. Heavily invested in Greenland's mining industry, Beijing sends warships to challenge the U.S. in the North Atlantic, warning the U.S. to withdraw. A tense standoff begins. The EU imposes sanctions, while Canada mobilizes forces and strengthens its border, fearing war on its doorstep. Then the unthinkable. Denmark fires warning shots at U.S. forces, demanding the end of the invasion. A single mistake could ignite global war. The world watches, waiting to see if diplomacy prevails or if the Arctic becomes the next battlefield. What would happen if the USA invaded Greenland right now? U.S. warships appear off the coast of Greenland.
That's a pretty wild consideration. I hope we never get to that point. Let's take a look here. Tim Ferguson writes that Trump orders the military to draft a Greenland invasion plan. According to multiple reports, he has directed U.S. Special Forces commanders to prepare contingency plans for possible invasion of Denmark, citing strategic concerns in the Arctic. That's probably why Stephen Miller was so coy with respect to that. Well, here's a quick clip from the president on Air Force One.
Take Greenland. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will. And I'm not letting that happen. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland. And I am not going to let that happen.
Is there any deal they can offer you? Either like
yeah, sure. I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will. And I'm not letting that happen.
Not going to let it happen. Here's more from the president on Air Force One.
Take over. Greenland should make the deal because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that? You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds. In the meantime, you have Russian destroyers and submarines and China destroyers and submarines all over the place. We're not going to let that happen. Greenland should make the deal because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland.
And here is more on that. Here's President Trump. This might have been at the oil executive meeting.
Thinking of getting people in Greenland to get them on board with a possible U.S.
I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way. And by the way, I'm a fan of Denmark too. I have to tell you, and they've been very nice to me. I'm a big fan, but the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. I'm sure we had lots of boats go there also, but we need that because if you take a look outside of Greenland right now, there are Russian destroyers, there are Chinese destroyers and bigger, there are Russian submarines all over the place. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland, and that's what they're going to do if we don't. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult. Please, go ahead, ma'am.
On Greenland, Mr. President, why is it so important to you to own it when you have a military presence there, which you could expand to affect security?
Because when we own it, we defend it. You don't defend leases the same way. You have to own it. With a nation, look at what happened with Obama, with that horrible deal they made with Iran. It was a short-term deal. It was like a 9-year deal. Countries can't make 9-year deals or even 100-year deals. Countries have to have ownership. And you defend ownership, you don't defend leases. And we'll have to defend Greenland. If we don't do it, China or Russia will. It's not going to happen. We are not going to have, and I like China, I like Russia, I love the people of China, I love the people of Russia. I get along very well with President Putin, but I'm very disappointed in him. I get along very well with President Xi. I'm going to go over to China in April, but I don't want them as a neighbor in Greenland. Not going to happen. And by the way, and NATO's got to understand that. I'm all for NATO. I saved NATO. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have a NATO right now. But we're not going to allow Russia or China to occupy Greenland, and that's what's going to happen if we don't.
Boom! President Trump making it abundantly clear that it is on the table. So, you saw him say it plainly. You know what? Greenland's defense right now is essentially 2 dog sleds. Everybody knows it. Nobody wants to say it out loud, but now it's said, and the people who've been pretending Europe can defend what it cannot are exposed. This is not chaos, this is clarity, and Trump understands that unspoken power is wasted power. By speaking plainly, he forces adversaries and allies alike to take American interests seriously. That's not reckless, that is called leadership. This matters because the Arctic is the next battleground. Russia is militarizing, China is maneuvering, and Greenland sits at the center of it all. For decades, American taxpayers have funded NATO's defense while European allies issued statements and held summits. Trump is done pretending. He's demanding accountability. He's forcing the conversation about who actually carries the risk and who merely talks about it. The media wants you to be afraid of Trump's words, but words didn't make Greenland strategically vital. Geography did. Words didn't make NATO dependent on America. Decades of European underinvestment did. Trump is simply stating facts the establishment has spent years hiding. So the question is, should America continue defending allies who refuse to defend themselves? Yes or no? Sound off in the chat. And remember, The Next News merch shop has the gear for those who believe in putting America first. Link in the description.
The system controls information. Information control is power. I want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.